A British court has found a 25-year-old Islamic studies teacher guilty of attempting to create an army of children from his students to attack London landmarks. Polly Boyka has been following the case.
Well, the specifics of the story are really quite staggering. Umar Haq, he's a 25-year-old teacher, and he taught a class in Islamic studies at a school here in London and also at a mosque. He was teaching 11 to 14-year-olds, and that's even though he had no teaching qualifications whatsoever. He was allowed to teach these classes unsupervised, so no one could see what he was doing, but that was where he attempted to brainwash these Muslim children and teenagers. Take a look to some of the details provided in court during this court case.
The investigation found 110 children that he radicalised. In the classroom, he was showing terrorist propaganda and beheading videos. He was also getting them to reenact the Westminster attack and how to attack police officers.
Well, when Haq was alone with the boys, that was when he would start to talk about Islamic State ideology. He used his laptop in the school to project onto a whiteboard images of knives, guns, of beheadings, and also of burning passports. And he said that he wanted to teach them to drive when they got older so that they could carry out attacks, multiple attacks later on. They also did role plays during these classes where some would act as police officers, others would act as terrorists carrying out beheadings, and he tried to prepare the kids physically as well. He would have them running around and doing push-ups. He'd tell them not to talk to anyone. In fact, he made them take an oath of silence, and many of the kids said that they were paralyzed by fear. They thought he would hurt them if they were to talk to anybody about what he was teaching them. What's particularly interesting here, and what's going to probably lead to a few questions to the government, is how all this was taking place in a school that's rated as outstanding by Ofsted, which is the British government's watchdog for schools. And in fact, the school inspection happened while Haq was brainwashing the kids there. He had to be dragged out of court today, and he was dragged out of the dock by officers while he was ranting. The judge is going to be sentencing him for all of this at a later date.
Joining me live now to discuss this further is terrorism expert and author Temitope Olodo. Now, Haq had access to more than 250 children. Are you surprised the school didn't know this was happening right under their noses?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm quite surprised that the British government has allowed this to continue. We're talking of a situation where this kind of schools exist. You know, they say they are tolerant. They do not ascribe really to the British value, because if they do, you know, they would know quite well that this kind of teaching should not be happening. Why should teachers take their own laptop to schools? What kind of curriculums do they have? Who is monitoring the curriculum? Who is monitoring the lessons that are being taught? You know, these are lapses that, you know, Ofsted will need to, you know, look into and ensure, because we have a situation where we have madrasa, about 2,000 of them, which David Cameron promised will be regulated, and in 2016, a council of northern mosques stood up to say, no, they don't want to be regulated. So, you know, most of these mosques have to now stand up and start answering questions about what is happening when their doors are closed.
Now, in this case, the children have said that they were too scared to speak out. What kind of safeguards can be taken to prevent a repeat of this situation?
I think what is quite important is the kind of syllabus that is being taught, because, you know, we should remember there are 50,000 churches in the whole of the United Kingdom, with about 340 different diversions of Christianity being taught. We don't have this kind of, you know, challenges in those places in their Sunday schools. So why is it that we're having these challenges? It shows that the leadership, the Muslim leadership, need to sit up and ensure that they put their house in order. And the government also need to ensure that they regulate these groups to ensure that the lessons which they are teaching behind closed doors are visible for everyone to see, that everybody knows what is being taught. The parents are fully aware of lessons, because if the teachers are deviating away from the lessons, then definitely, this will have been quite clear. It's like teaching mathematics and deviating to teach about terrorism. Everybody will have known that something is going wrong, and this is where we need to really work on the curriculums in these schools and ensure that government comes out to ensure that these groups are being regulated.
Well, of course, and I do think it is important to point out that this teacher was deviating from the curriculum. This was his own idea, his own project. Now, not so long ago, we heard the story of how a person with radical views was also able to get a job at Heathrow Airport, of course, a major airport in London, despite a background check. And now we have this. Could it be that people with radical views are working anywhere and everywhere?
Oh, definitely. There's no doubt that the vetting system needs to be reviewed again, because, again, with Mr. Umar, I don't think he actually got any proper check done, and he was also a friend of Mr. Bott, who worked with the London Underground, who was involved in the killing at London Bridge, and the individuals again at Heathrow. So there is need to revisit, the vetting system and ensuring that the 3,000 hardened jihadis that is known to exist, to live within the UK, and others that are suspected are actually placed on the system, so that when they apply for specific jobs that are sensitive, their names will come up for those authorities to make a decision on whether they are suitable for those jobs or whether the risk could be properly managed.
Terrorism expert and author Temitope Olodo, thank you so much for your comments and your time this evening.